Welcome to this explainer, where we're going to dive right into the incredible, almost unbelievable bureaucratic journey of one man trying to navigate the absolute behemoth that is the United Nations hiring system. You know, we usually think of global institutions like the UN as these well-oiled, perfectly rational machines. But what actually happens when an unstoppable force of human ambition slams right into the immovable object of strict institutional protocol? Well, today, we're exploring a story built entirely from internal UN legal documents, judgments, and email threads. It's a fascinating case study that really pulls back the curtain on the intricate and honestly sometimes bewildering realities of administrative justice.
1165. Just let that number sink in for a second. That is the staggering total number of job applications submitted by a single individual within the UN system. I mean, think about the sheer amount of time, hope, and energy it takes to fill out over 1,000 complex international job applications. This massive volume didn't just break personal records. As we're going to see, it literally broke the software designed to process it. And in doing so, it sparked an unprecedented, complex legal battle deep within the United Nations internal justice system.
Chapter 1. 1,000 job applications.
So meet the man behind these numbers, Basil El-Habil. He was working for the UN Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees, which you probably know as UNRWA. And he was stationed in the Gaza field office. Now, according to the source documents, Basil was desperately trying to secure a role within the main UN Secretariat. And he wasn't just throwing his hat in the ring for entry-level positions either. He was aiming high, applying for top management roles, like the director of the documentation division. He was looking for upward mobility, searching for a way out of his current posting to advance his career on the global stage. But his ambition was about to hit a massive digital roadblock.
Section 2. The Inspira portal glitch.
Applying for that many jobs doesn't just raise eyebrows in HR. It turns out it triggers a catastrophic technical failure. The documents reveal that between October 2013 and February 2014, the UN's very own hiring portal, called Inspira, experienced a massive glitch. Why? Because the system was literally hard-coded to max out at 999 applications per account. The software just was not built to handle a user submitting 1,000 applications. Because of this, 166 of Basil's newest applications got completely trapped in digital limbo. For over 4 solid months, while deadlines for these high-level jobs came and went, his applications were essentially frozen, and he had absolutely no idea. To really grasp the urgency behind those 1,165 applications, we have to listen to Basil's own words. His emails to the Deputy Secretary General revealed this deeply emotional, profoundly human struggle. He wrote about the lawlessness, the threats, and the dire conditions in Gaza, describing it as a place where the smell of death is everywhere. He pleaded for a fair chance, expressing how incredibly frustrating it is to feel completely abandoned, unable to plan a safe future for himself or his children. This wasn't just a guy looking for a promotion. For Basil, this was a desperate attempt to escape a truly harrowing environment.
And this brings us to a stark contrast in our sources. While Basil was writing these desperate, emotionally charged pleas to top UN officials about the safety of his family and his life's trajectory, the internal response was, well, very different. An internal email exchange between officials discussing his case casually brushed off the situation using the jarring phrase, "Crazy Magnet Saunders." It perfectly highlights this vast, almost shocking disconnect between a human being fighting for a better life and an administrative machine just processing a seemingly endless pile of paperwork. When the Inspira Support Center did finally get back to Basil, their HR response was as cold and procedural as it gets. They neutrally stated, "We are pleased to inform you that the technical issue has now been resolved," basically advising him to just create a new account if he wanted to keep applying. But what they completely ignored was the human cost. They didn't mention the months of lost opportunities, the missed deadlines for those 166 jobs, or his desperate request to have those applications retroactively considered. The machine simply reset itself, and that was that.
Section 3. The legal brick walls.
Feeling completely sidelined by these systemic failures, and frankly believing he was being deliberately ignored, Basil decided to fight back. He took his case to the United Nations Dispute Tribunal, the UNDT. But right out of the gate, he slammed into a massive legal brick wall known as locus standi. In everyday terms, locus standi just means standing. It asks one fundamental question. Does this specific person have the legal right to bring this specific case to this specific court? If you don't have locus standi, the court won't even look at whether your case is fair or not. They'll just dismiss it immediately because they simply don't have the jurisdiction to hear you speak.
And here's where the technicality really bites. The UNDT ruled that Basil lacked locus standi. Why? Well,
Even though Basel worked under the broader UN umbrella, his contract was specifically with UNRWA. Legally speaking, an UNRWA staff member is not considered a UN Secretariat staff member. The dispute tribunal only has jurisdiction over disputes involving Secretariat staff. So when it came to applying for those Secretariat jobs, Basel was legally classified as an external candidate. He had zero right to sue the UN over a hiring decision.
What happened next was a swift, decisive legal shutdown. In a rapid-fire series of decisions in late 2015, the UNDT repeatedly dismissed his cases. Bam, bam, bam. First, they rejected his request to pause the hiring processes. Then, they officially ruled his main case wasn't even receivable. By December, the tribunal had clearly run out of patience. They refused yet another application and explicitly put Basel on notice, warning him that he could actually be financially penalized and charged legal costs if he kept filing challenges that they simply had no jurisdiction to hear.
Section 4. The final UNET verdict. Driven by the sheer desperation of his circumstances, Basel refused to just accept the lower court's decision. He escalated the fight all the way to the highest internal appellate court, the United Nations Appeals Tribunal, or UNAT. In April 2016, the Appeals Tribunal stepped in to manage the massive volume of Basel's legal filings. They issued an order formally consolidating all four of his previous UNDT appeals into one, final, definitive judgment. The highest court in the UN system was now gearing up to deliver the final word on whether Basel al-Habil had any right at all to challenge the system that had frozen his 166 applications. And the resulting document, UNH Judgment 655, delivered a totally objective, airtight legal reality. The tribunal stated in no uncertain terms that an UNRW staff member cannot challenge a decision denying them employment at the Secretariat. They ruled that rejecting a job application doesn't violate an UNRW employment contract. And because his UNRW contract wasn't breached, no actionable administrative decision had actually occurred. The glitch was terrible, sure, but legally, it wasn't a crime they could prosecute.
To summarize the court's cold, impartial logic, they laid it out step by step. Step 1, UNRWA staff do not fall under the dispute tribunal's jurisdiction. Step 2, not getting a job at the Secretariat has absolutely zero legal impact on your current UNRW contract. And Step 3, therefore, despite dedicating his career to a UN agency, Basel had the exact same lack of judicial recourse as a complete outsider applying for a job from their living room couch. And just like that, with the stroke of a pen, it was over. Presiding Judge Rosalind Chapman officially signed the judgment, definitively affirming the lower court's dismissal and explicitly stating that the appeals were not receivable. That signature officially slammed the door on Basel's monumental legal battle. The rules were the rules, the jurisdiction was defined, and this massive bureaucratic maze had exactly one exit, which led right back to where he started.
So I want to leave you with this provocative thought to take away from our explainer today. As we've seen, the law in this case was flawlessly and accurately applied by the tribunals. The jurisdictional boundaries were respected to the letter. But does a purely procedural victory fully address the human reality of a bureaucratic maze? When a massive institution's strict rules clash with a person's desperate, unprecedented circumstances, like maxing out a system with over 1,000 applications just to escape a war zone, what does true justice actually look like? It's a question that goes far, far beyond the letter of the law.